Hey folks, this is Jake from So We Flow, and you're listening to the Why We Move podcast. We speak to incredible movers from all sorts of disciplines to share their stories and give you practical and inspirational advice on movement and living a happy, healthy life. We welcome beginners and experts, introverts and extroverts, fanatics and casuals to better themselves and inspire others. Today, we're talking about movement, good living, what it takes to incorporate sustainable movement into your life, and personal development with Theo, who is not only an incredibly proficient, diverse and passionate mover, but someone who has become a close friend of mine and part of the So We Flow team. Thanks for joining us, Theo.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
No worries,
I feel honored to be on your first podcast ever. To those people who do not know me, my name is Theo. I'm 20 years old and I am a mover by heart. So I move in a variety of disciplines like capoeira, parkour, breakdance, mainly yoga and a lot of other things. And I got introduced to So We Flow, I guess, 3 years ago or something.
Yeah,
We just had a quick chat and I really like the stuff that Jake is promoting and doing, and that's how we got together. And now I'm part of the team, I would say.
Yeah, I would say so as well. I think we've definitely got to that point now. It definitely feels that way. So I think the best way to kick this off is to ask you, when and how did you get into movement?
So how do I start? I was always an active person, and I started with soccer when I was 4 years old. So I was always running and active. And I think I got into the movement game first when I was like maybe 14 years old, because I saw a clip on on the TV of a guy running up a wall and doing a wall flip. And I was like, damn, can this be true? Is it reality or is it just fake or something you just see on TV? And then my mother told me like, yeah, there are people who can do it. And so I got into parkour first, and later on some tricking and capoeira, and things just built up. So I think the start was when I was a teenager, so around 14 years old. And later on I dropped soccer when I was 21. And for the half of my life, I would call myself like a mover.
Brilliant. And so you obviously started in a very sort of classic sport such as soccer or whatever, but you were inspired by this wall flip. So how did you kind of go from there to where you are now?
As I said, it just built it up. So I would say first I was very external driven. So people told me what to do. That's because I played soccer. People wanted me to play soccer. And after that, I wanted to impress people. So I was looking for those fancy moves like wall flips and stuff. And then it just developed through my own interests like internal driven. I would say I just figured out what I enjoy more and what are my strengths and my weaknesses. And after that, I just figured out that I need to focus on the things that will help me to move for a longer period, not just for a couple of years, but when I get older. And so it all shifted from those extreme things like breakdancing, cliff jumping, and tricking and whatever to more like casual ways like flow movement and soft capoeira and yoga and everything that just builds up right now my own practice.
Yeah, sure. I think like from obviously seeing the stuff you do in an intimate way, as you obviously share so much of it with me and So We Flow and the community, I think the one thing that stands out about your practice for me is like you can't really pinpoint it or pigeonhole what you're doing. Like I think personally for me, what I do is very much like this is yoga or like this is calisthenics. Whereas for you, I'm kind of like Theo just moves his body in cool ways. And I think that's something that a lot of people will never sort of reach that level, I imagine. And I guess it's interesting for me to know like how did it form into that like place that it is now, or for you does it even feel like that? Do you feel it is more sort of like regimented than sort of I am perceiving it or other people might perceive it?
Well, so first, thank you. I feel honored that you described my practice, my movement like this. Um, yeah, it's funny because I would call it like a journey of different stages, because I always focused on one thing for a couple of years. So let's say I was in a breakdance group for 2 to 3 years, and I was mainly focusing on breakdance. And there I learned a lot of stuff that will help me, for example, for handstand freezes and for power moves, for flexibility. And then I wouldn't say I got tired of it, but there was something more interesting that just caught my attention. And so I moved on to a different aspect, a different stage, which was, for example, let's say climbing or bouldering. And so I figured out that I need to be very technical. And so there were different stages with different aspects, with different focuses. And so right now, it's just that I can take a tiny bit of every practice that I ever did in my life, and I can just build them together. And it, to me, it's just so I can just bust out like a Webster right now if I don't have to think about it, because I did it in the past for a couple of years, and it's still there. And I can do the same with breakdance moves. I can do the same with yeah, flips from a cliff or whatever you want to call it. And right now it's just a playful approach. So I have all those skills and I have all those ideas and all those understandings of the movement, and I can just take whatever I want to enjoy it at this moment. So it's more like it's just a playground. So yeah, I worked for it in the past, and now it's just having fun.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe it. And it, when you say it like that, it makes complete sense. And I guess it's kind of the way that other outsiders might see that is like sort of magnified by the effect of social media. And obviously, you can just be like a snapshot of what you were doing that day, and like what that move is, what that trick is, when it's maybe doesn't make up like or it doesn't show what's gone into that to create it. And your practice very much you don't show so much of like just the day-to-day stuff. It is more like the impactful, like the stuff that you've worked hard for and those results.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah,
It's just like Instagram to me is just some highlights, and I just put all the highlights of the last years that brought me to this place, and I just put them together. So
yeah, for sure, for sure. So what specifically makes your movement practice important to you? Like, obviously you got into it inspired by something quite like superficial, for sake of a better word, but obviously nowadays it will mean something much greater to you. So kind of what does it mean to you personally?
so it became just a huge part of myself, of my identity, I would say. So if we talk about yoga, we want to let go of the ego, and we don't want to be too much into ourselves. But I would say that movement is like, if you think about Theo, or if you think about my account, you would always like have a stamp on it and say, okay, this guy is a mover. So it is part of my identity. And personally, it's more so to me, I have 5 big parts in my life that I would call like the most important aspects that will bring me a happy life. And if I'm good and healthy in those 5 areas, then I will be okay. And movement, or like physical health, is like a big part of it. So I see my movement practice more um, as a part or something that I have to do to be happy, because it brings me a lot of joy and a lot of enthusiasm. So it's one thing that I have to do because I want it like deep in myself. And on the other side, it's just a place where I can always go every day to find myself again. It's like a meditation, like a moving meditation, or something where I know I will get energy out of it. So if I'm at work and I have to invest a lot of energy and I'm stressed out and people just, I don't know, annoy me, if I go back to my practice, it's just like a source or a fountain of energy where I gonna energize again, and like, yeah, get back to my personal fountain of happiness.
Yeah,
If you
great.
want to call it like that.
So out of interest, I've got to ask, what are the other four things of the five?
Yeah.
So one is
Okay.
movement. What's the other four?
A mantra that I tell myself every morning when I go for a walk. So there are 5 aspects. The first is like spirituality, something like know who you show love to others. So like having a spirit, The second one is we can't, or you have to too much about it and you can't want. Money means not able to buy myself freedom. Minimalistic approach, like not to buy. One is the physical, as I just said. So I want to have no pain. I want to eat right. So it's just something to remind myself to be active in my lifestyle. And on the fourth part, the fourth step would be mental health, like seizing chances, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, educating myself, learning languages, like writing a journal and stuff like that. And the fifth part would be like emotional health. So this is probably the most important one. And this is just to remind myself to socialize, to be a good person, to be there for family and friends, to reflect on my life, to keep smiling, to be a positive person, to leave a positive impact, stuff like that. So every morning I just go through all those 5 areas, and I hope that it gets into my subconsciousness. So when I just tackle the day, there are a lot of things that I have deep inside of myself that I know why I work for, and yeah, they will just like point in one direction where I know I'm going to end up happy. If you
Amazing, man.
Yeah,
I think I have like a sort of a similar sort of landscape of things as well, and I think it's interesting how kind of through a movement practice, like these other things become more aware, like you become more aware of them and they become more obvious to you. And it's strange when you obviously see lots of the general population just doing like exercise, so to speak. And it's very much like boxed in, like this is exercise.
Isolated.
And it's so separate from everything else. Yeah, it's isolated from everything else. And I think when, you know, a lot of people will be like, well, what's the difference between movement and exercise? And I think that movement is more of a whole, like it's part of everything. And it kind of opens your eyes to like everything else in your life, be it like the obvious ones like nutrition and like sleep maybe, but also like connection with other people, like your mental state, connection with nature, like your personal development. And it kind of all molds into this like one thing that becomes like your whole.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what I feel is the difference. So I guess off the back of that, this is kind of the same questions I asked you before, but it has a kind of different meaning. So like, I'm going to say, what is movement to you, but not in terms of like what it means to you, but what does the word actually mean to you? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. There's this amazing quote. I actually don't know who said it, but movement, or to be in motion, to move something, to move on. There's this quote called, or it says, the only consistent is change. So in my past, I really tried to stick to things that make me happy. And I was really like broken down and sad. For example, if my girlfriend broke up with me, or if I had knee surgery and I felt that I might not be able to move as I wanted, as I did before, and there was some like setbacks in my life, I always tried to just to stick to those positive things, and I didn't want to let go and let change happen. And actually, movement really teaches me to be able to let go, because like every time when you start a new movement approach or a new area, or if you have like a new move that you want to learn, there is nothing you can really hold on to. You just have to be open-minded. You just have to let go of control sometimes. For example, if you go for a double or triple flip, you can't control it in the first try. You just have to believe in it. You just have to trust it, go for intuition, and just let go. So I would say the word or the term movement, what does it mean to me? It just means like you can use it as a metaphor for your whole life, to be able to let go of your control, to be able to accept change and to be okay with it. Something like that, I would say.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more. I think it does become sort of this vessel for accepting change. And I think there's nothing more obvious to us than the way our body changes and the way we feel in our bodies day to day. So you can almost use that as like a cornerstone for everything else in your life that's changing around you.
Yeah.
I think change is a really interesting point, actually, because obviously a lot of people out there will have like movement goals. So I think this flows into sort of talking about goals and getting there quite well. So like, obviously, in order to achieve a goal that's beyond where you are now, like change is absolutely required. And I know you mentioned that quote before that I've heard a few times, but I'm just getting it up now. There's one from Albert Einstein, and he says, "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results." And I think so many of us are guilty of that with like movement practices and goals, and sort of believing, oh, I've been working so hard to get to this place, but you've actually not been doing the right thing or not been making the right changes to get where you want to be. And when that time period comes up, you're like, whoa, why have I not achieved this thing that I was setting my mind to do? So I guess, given you have worked so hard towards all these physical abilities, what advice would you give to people listening about sort of achieving goals and like the process to get yourself there?
Yeah.
From your experience.
Pretty good question. So what I figured out in my short journey of movement, or long, whatever you want to just say, judge 14 years. So the sad thing about achieving goals is this emptiness afterwards. So let's say you go for a very difficult move that takes you like 3 or 4 or 5 years, like not actually practicing this specific move, but you need to prepare your body, you need to get flexible, you need to learn like muscle memory. And finally, after 5 years of a lot of practice and training and tears and blood and whatever, you just achieve your goal and you can smash out this flip or this trick or this skill whenever you want, wherever you want. And after that, you just realize like, okay, you just reached your goal, and what's next? Like there's this huge emptiness because this was part of your life for 5 years. Okay, so you really dedicated your day-to-day business to achieve this goal, and afterwards you're just like, okay, now I got it, and it's quite not interesting to me anymore. So if I meet people, they always say like, do you know how to backflip? Of course I know how to backflip, but it's not interesting to me anymore because I achieved it. To me, it would be more interesting like, can I balance on one arm because I didn't reach it yet? So the message, or what I would recommend to people, is to understand, like, normal quote, the path is the goal. So you won't be fulfilled and you won't be happy once you reach your goal or once you unlock the skill, because then you will just look for something else. You're just going to look for another move that is more complicated, that is harder to learn, and you're just going to fall in love again with the process, and you will enjoy just learning it. So for example, to me, the air flare, the master breakdance power move, like I've been practicing this stuff for like 6 or 7 years now, and I still didn't figure out how to do it multiple ways. I messed up my shoulders, and like it's really frustrating, but that's why I love this move. If I would wake up tomorrow and I would be able to do it, there would be like a huge hole, like emptiness in front of me. That would just be, it would be sad, because the longer the journey takes, the more fun it makes.
Yeah, well, that's an amazing perspective, because it's interesting the way you said it then, because immediately I thought about that exact situation. Is talked about a lot when it comes to like money and possessions. And obviously, you know, someone might be thinking, when I earn £50,000 a year, then I'll be happy. And then they get to £50,000 a year, and they're like, when I'm earning £75,000 a year, oh, then it'll happen, as if something will just change. And that's kind of one of the first times I've heard it where it seems to reflect that so much. So I wonder, is there something bad about like wanting a movement goal and really focusing on it so much? Like, because in a way you could describe it as being almost like a want and a material thing, such as money or like a nice car or a house. Like, can that be toxic to you?
I guess it can be toxic, as you just said, if you see fulfillment in this materialistic approach, or if you seriously believe that this one step will make you happy. But on the other side, I feel like goals are nothing else like a vision. So you need to have a goal, because if you don't have a goal, you don't know which direction you're gonna go. So if you really want to process in your training and in your skill set, um, of course we need a playful approach, but then you need to train seriously. There's no gambling around, no playing around in that term. So you need to understand where you want to go, and having a goal is the most important thing, because if you don't see the peak of the mountain, you actually just wander around like left and right and you don't know where to go. So I would say it can be toxic, of course, if you misinterpret it like in a wrong way. But if you do understand that the goal is just like the carrot in front of the donkey, like it just shows the direction where you need to go. And for the donkey, it's not important like where he's going, because the way he just wants to reach his goal. And that's exactly the same with me. So my goal is to be a healthy, good, skillful mover. And if it takes me through ballet, or if it takes me through swimming or dancing or whatever, I don't mind. It's just like I have an overall goal, and that's where I want to go. So I would say it's half-half. It can be toxic, yes, if you just misunderstand it. But on the other hand, it's like very important to have goals, because they will just show you your path where you want to, or where you have to go.
Yeah, of course. I
You're
think
going to
it's
agree
about,
with that one?
yeah, I completely agree. I think goals have helped me so much, not just in a movement practice, but like just in day-to-day life. Like I think as long as you don't put too much like emotional value onto them, and you see them as targets and nothing else, and don't make it part of your identity, then there's nothing wrong with it. And it actually, you almost create accountability for yourself. Like you feel like someone's watching you and you need to get it done, and it can motivate you to take that extra step. Like I just last week I had a goal of I just wanted to get this a client for my health coaching. Just in what I had 1 week left to do it on my goal board, and I've been putting it off, and then literally like when I saw that goal was within a week, when I'd had like almost a month to do it, I just took serious action to make it happen. And then literally like the day I did it, I got that client. But if that wasn't written on my wall, that I would have never done that. I would have forever just been like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like I'll do it next month. And when I did it, I felt amazing. And it definitely wasn't, say, like the way you described a movement goal where it left a hole in my life. I knew that it was just one step in the journey, and I was always aware of that. And it was super fulfilling, but I wasn't like attached to it anyway. But having it there definitely was what made it happen. If it wasn't there, I don't think it would have happened. And that's just the honest truth. So I think obviously we've talked lots about like more advanced sort of learning advanced skills, goals, like your movement practices obviously very advanced compared to the majority of people that probably are listening to this. And one thing that is a big part of thing that's a big part of So We Flow, and definitely my philosophy, is a sustainable movement practice. So the things that we do day to day just to keep our bodies healthy, mobile, and happy. And I know you're a massive proponent of that as well. Like we might see all the amazing tricks and skills that you have, but you also have a very dedicated and consistent sort of daily routine. So let's just spitball 3 most important considerations for people that want to maintain a sustainable movement practice over time.
Okay, so 3. First, I would say
go for 1 if you want.
You need to enjoy it. Okay, I'm just gonna like brainstorm. We're gonna see how many we're gonna end up. So when I have clients and they tell me like they have pain in their back, or they just want to learn to touch their toes, or just want to feel better and be a better mover, most important aspect to me is that those people need to understand that you need to fall in love with what you're doing. So someone wants to lose weight, just go on a running track. it will have the effect that you wish it's going to have, but you won't enjoy it. And if you really want to integrate it like sustainable in your life for the next couple of 10, 20, 30 years, you need to find something you're really going to enjoy. So I don't really enjoy calisthenics because my body, like it's not the thing I'm really good at. Okay, so what I enjoy is flow moves. So to be supple, to move like aesthetic, like a dancer, and so I need to focus on those things that bring me joy. So movement practice or my daily movement sessions really just focus on those things that bring me joy, because I will have this feeling of happiness afterwards and I want to come back tomorrow. I want back tomorrow. I want to come back tomorrow. If I only focus on those things that are hard and exhausting and do have like a great effect on my physical approach, on my physical appearance, it's just going to be hard to stay motivated and to get back to it. So first advice is fall in love with what you do or figure out what you really enjoy. Okay, so if you're not into movement and you are like a teammate, sportsman person, just go and start volleyball or whatever. So figure out what you love. Second is try to integrate it into your daily schedule. So my movement practice is not only when I'm in the gym, it's during the day, just what you do. So if I'm sitting in front of a computer, I sit in a half lotus position. Or I just had a phone, so every 30 minutes I do just some spinal waves. Yes, exactly. Jake is just showing how he's sitting in full lotus. Perfect. It just stuff like that. So just integrate some movement task into your life, into your daily schedule, to like have a bigger time schedule of movement in your day. So those would be two. And the third one would be stick to the basics, I guess. Because as we were talking about goals, we always see ourselves like balancing on one finger or doing the full planche or the full front lever. But those things actually, if we talk about sustainability, are going to mess up your body because they're super intense. And if you don't prepare yourself well for it, you're going to mess it up and you're going to have pain. I have knee and shoulder surgery, knee surgery and shoulder pain. So what I would recommend is just stick to the basics, even though they don't look impressive and you just can't upload them on Instagram and get 1 million likes for it because it's something super special. Just try to stick to those things that are easy and that will help you to provide a body that is able to move for like multiple decades. So first would be fall in love. Second would be integrated into your daily schedule. And the third thing would be like stick to the basics. The most advanced skills will just grow out of the basics, but don't just overshoot, I guess.
Yeah, I think you couldn't have chosen three better pieces of advice then. I think I would have probably said exactly the same thing. I think like definitely as I've got older and my practice has matured and I've obviously become a maturer person, I've gone through more life experiences. I think those things have just become more and more important to me. And it's for all those reasons, like every movement practice, if I only have 30 minutes, I want to make sure it's something I love doing and I enjoy, right? And the same with doing the basics. Like if you only have 30 minutes, then just do the core things that make you feel good and are good for your body. And that's what's worked for me over the years. And I think since I've become a dad now and I've worked a lot busier and you have all life's commitments, it becomes even more important. And I just it annoys. I wouldn't say it annoys me, maybe a bit strong, but I find it sad that people think that like movement has to be really difficult and hard, and they just believe that that's the only way to get where they want to be. So you obviously see someone that goes from like no exercise to like pounding the pavement, like running for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And it's just like, there's just nothing sustainable about that whatsoever. For everyone, like it's not good it's not sustainable mentally, it's not sustainable physically, because you're just doing so much too fast and you're not concentrating on what you love first. So I completely agree in the sense, like, if you're not doing anything right now, you need to just find something you love doing, because that is better than nothing. You, in the sort of hierarchy of movement, the base level is just doing something, right? Finding something that's effective for this very precise thing, whether it's like doing the planche, losing weight, like getting bigger thighs, I don't know. Like, this is so much higher up the pyramid if you're doing nothing. So you need to focus on the base first, build up those foundations. And I think going to your second point, so about obviously fitting it into your day, again, like most of the people that I work with are like busy working men, right? So these guys, this is their biggest problem, is about finding time to do movement, and recognizing that it's not like about going to the gym for an hour. Like, there's way more sort of involved ways of doing it where it just fits seamlessly into your lifestyle. And I'm just the same as you. Like, I'll sit in like squat position, sit cross-legged, like when on an evening, if I'm chilling watching a movie or something, I'll like just do some like yin style stretches whilst I'm doing it, or reading or whatever.
Yeah.
And just the biggest one, man, like just go for a walk outside, you know? Like, it is literally the most powerful thing. And I struggled for a long time. Almost, I mean, I'm sure you've had this as well when you've been in training phases where you actually are like working towards specific goals, but where if you miss a session for whatever reason, like you feel guilty about it, and you feel like the day has almost not been fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I struggled with that. I struggled with that for a long time. And more recently now, for me, all it takes is kind of like a few simple things, which is like go for a walk, get outside every day, have a cold shower in the morning, and just sit in some stretches like on an evening. And like, if I do that every day, my body feels good, which is obviously super important. And I feel good mentally as well. And I think it's become very interesting to me how little movement it actually takes to feel physically good. Like, I honestly think I feel more mobile now than I have in my entire life, and I'm probably training a quarter of the time. Like, what is that about? It's crazy, right?
Yeah, like I think there's the biggest aspect would be being effective. So you can go to the gym for 2 hours and pretend to work out for 2 hours, or you just can do like a home workout for 20 minutes and really work out for 20 minutes, and it's going to be more effective, you know. But one more thing, as you just said, because you try to get those movement snacks during the day, or just sitting in a lotus right now. So maybe for the listeners could be interesting. I don't know your room yet, but I would bet like you have no chairs, right?
Well, we have sofas and chairs, but they're rarely used by me.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, same to me. So I live by myself. I just have a small room, and I don't own any chairs. So I have a small table. I can sit on the floor, and like I have a meditation pillow, or even my bed is just on the floor. It's just the mattress on the floor. So when I wake up, I have to stand up from the floor, like in a squatting position. And so the same with sitting. If you have to sit on the floor, you are forced to be more flexible, more mobile, and you're just moving more than sitting on a chair in front of a table. So just like inspiration for the listeners could be to change your environment. There we have change again, to force yourself to move even more. Just like there are so many things that you can get rid of your car and you move more. I mean, there are so many aspects that you can change around yourself that will help you to change from the inside, you know?
Yeah, I think sitting on the floor is a really interesting one. I think it's almost, in terms of like the general conventional wisdom surrounding it, it kind of fits in that category of like walking barefoot, right? It's a bit like hippie kind of vibes. And it seems like a dramatic change to your life, but it's just because there's so much conventional wisdom in our society, like built up around chairs and like sitting in chairs. Like, how many times, probably every day, someone's like, "Oh, sit down." Like, people just do that, don't they?
Yeah,
they offer you chairs, have a seat, yeah, as if like I'm fine. Standing's cool. Like, I'm so cool with standing right now. Like, and it's just so strange how it is just such a societal norm. And that position in a chair like that, like, is just one of the worst things for our bodies. Like, and you know, I've only really dedicated myself to not using chairs very often in the last few years. And I can honestly say my body has never felt better. And when I sit in a chair now, I'm genuinely uncomfortable. Like, I can feel the way that it's placing my spine and the way that it's affecting my hips just in literally a few minutes. So I actively, once you've done it for a while, like, you don't want to be in a chair anywhere.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's just a crazy thing, really, and it's definitely been one of the things that's impacted my body the most, more than anything. And it really isn't drastic at all. Like, if your home is your safe space, right? I'm pretty sure you can sit on the floor without judgment from anyone. Maybe your partner will be like, "Oh, why are you sat on the floor?" But they'll get over it, right? They'll get over it. So I'm going to ask you one more question that I'm thinking this might be a question that I ask everyone that comes on the So We Flow podcast at the end. It's quite a profound one that surpasses movement. And you've actually answered this question before when you've done the Men That Move interview, but maybe things have changed this time. So we'll see what you say. So if you could share one message to every single person on the planet, what would you say and why?
Oh boy, I'm not prepared for that question, and I forget what I said before.
Well, we could read it out, but let's go for something
Like
new.
the last time we talked about this question. So what I can just get out of this second. So what would I recommend to every person on this planet right now? Not in terms of movement, just in general terms, right?
Whatever you want, whatever you feel you want to say. If you could say one thing to every single person, what would it
be? Like, life is a game. Enjoy it. Try not to be too hard with yourself. Try not to judge others. Love is the answer, and ego is just like something that's holding you back. Go all in. Change is the only consistency. And chase your dreams, have fun.
I love it, man. I'm sure people will appreciate that. So Theo, thank you.
I tried. At least I tried.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I loved it. So Theo, thank you so much for being part of the first So We Flow podcast. And we didn't even talk about loads of the stuff that we wanted to talk about. So he did a handstand training course in the Austrian Alps, and then he's been traveling for 5 weeks around Europe, teaching yoga in a surf camp in France, and just came back from a road trip in Switzerland. So what we're going to have to do is just have you back on to talk about all that stuff, and your future travels and how you're moving into teaching more and trying to make that full time. I think people would love to know how you're making that transition from working in a city job to becoming a full-time movement teacher. So we'll have you back on in the future, and we can get down to the deep bones of that.